Hello and welcome to Films and That. My name's Rob Turnbull.
And my name's Sam Hall.
And today we're doing This Is Spinal Tap.
So this was your choice. What made you want to talk about this?
Well, it's a classic film and there is another Spinal Tap that's being made. It's going to be released next year actually. So I thought it's a good chance to do it.
Great, okay, let's go.
A spoof documentary following Britain's loudest heavy metal band on their underwhelming American tour. This review contains spoilers. So this is a fake documentary, not the first to be made, but one that definitely popularised the genre, I would say.
Were they partly influenced by the Rutles, is that right?
The Brutals?
Yeah.
I've never heard of that.
Oh, okay. Never mind then, but I think they were a band just created as a pastiche parody of the Beatles, basically. Whereas Spinal Tap, I think I heard a story that Christopher Guest overheard a British band arguing or something. That's one of the things that gave him like a spark of an idea.
The manager says to one of them, "Where's your bass?" "What? Where's your bass?" "I don't know, I think I left it at the airport."
I've always been so impressed about how well they do British accents, considering the main three members of the band are all American.
Yeah, I didn't even realise they were American until long after I watched it for the first time. But yeah, the best British accents I've ever heard.
We're not university material.
What's that on your finger?
It's my gum.
What are you doing with it on your finger?
I might need it later.
Put it on the table, it's terrible.
Well, I forget it on the table.
They must have done a lot of research into that, let alone that, but then they also must have done a ton of research into being in a band.
Yeah.
I mean, they basically created an album for this film, which is an incredible achievement of itself.
Yeah, and they are musicians in their own right and pretty damn good musicians. So I think that adds a lot of authenticity. A lot of bands who have watched this say it's exactly how being on tour is.
Everyone's had that anecdote. I think I've heard Ozzy Osbourne might have said it.
I think The Edge said it made him cry or something.
Okay, I hope that it's meant to be a comedy though. But,
yeah. But just because it was so close to the truth, and I've heard Chris Martin from Coldplay saying something similar. It really gets to the heart of the kind of stupidity of being a rock musician, I think. Like all the songs they play are just stupid songs. They all play the bass in that song. It's like a musical joke because it's about bombs. I did see a Live Earth concert where they got like 20 or 30 people out to play alongside them. So they had like the members of Metallica there.
Really?
And they were saying like, oh yeah, on bass, you know, Kirk Hammett or whatever, and on bass. And they just went, they kept going, on bass, on bass.
On the bass, Mr. James Hetfield. Mr. Kirk Hammett. Mr. Robert Trujillo, actually on the bass.
Well, the plot is a band to go on tour, but it's not their first tour of America.
It's sort of like when their career's on the way down and no one's coming to their gigs. The tour manager goes to them, "Oh, good news, we've got the hotel rooms we wanted. Bad news, the gig's been cancelled."
We're cancelled here.
At the hotel?
No, we're cancelled. The gig is cancelled. It says Memphis show cancelled due to lack of advertising funds.
Watching it again for this review, I really kind of appreciated the tour manager guy, the manager of the band, because he really is the kind of heart of the stupidity that goes on, because he's just trying to like spin everything into a positive angle. Like one of the biggest gags with the Stonehenge that comes down and it's the wrong size.
Yeah. The amount of times I try and think what's my favourite joke and there's always something else I think, oh hang on, but that bit's pretty good. But that's one of the funniest anyway.
Are you telling me that this is it? This is scenery? Have you ever been to Stonehenge?
No, I haven't been to Stonehenge.
The triptychs are 20 feet high.
One of my favourite things about that is how the manager, when he sees it for the first time, he's really angry with the person that's made it. But then when he's like trying to explain it to the band, he's just like completely absolving himself of any responsibility.
Yeah.
Like, I just got told to make this, it's nothing to do with me, even though he obviously knew it was stupid.
Nigel gave me a drawing that said 18 inches, all right?
I know he did, and that's what I'm talking
whether
about.
he knows the difference between feet and inches is not my problem. I do what I'm told.
But you're not as confused as him, are you? I mean, it's not your job to be as confused as Nigel is.
We should say, actually, that it's mostly improvised.
There's moments, I think, where they're corpsing a bit, you can sort of tell, talking about how scary they are for women, and that's why they don't have a huge female audience.
They see us on stage with tight trousers. We've got, armadillos in our trousers. I mean, it's really quite frightening.
We see him like laughing, like corpsing basically at that, and they obviously kept it in. Because it works, pretty well.
I think that's why it's so funny. They just seem to be trying to make each other laugh. And I think that just brings out the comedy. And it seemed like it was a really fun shoot to work on. They were just pissing themselves all the time.
The review you had on Shark Sandwich, which was merely a 2-word review, just said, shit sandwich.
Where'd they print that? Where'd they print that? That's not real, is it?
They had like the whole backstory of the band planned out, like how many albums they've done and like who was in the band before that guy. And then the director, Rob Reiner, would just ask them questions, and they didn't know what questions they were going to ask ahead of time. So it was kind of like a real interview in that sense.
I really like the kind of aspect of the background of the band, showing clips of them in the 60s, like a sort of British invasion type bands or whatever, with a song that, I don't know what level of the parody of that is, just the song is literally give me some money.
Do I have to come right flat out and tell you everything? Give me some money. Give me some money.
Do you get the sense that they never really wanted to play heavy metal? They were just doing whatever was relevant at that time?
Yeah, they just try and stay relevant or whatever. They just thought heavy metal was going to be the next big thing. What they're into is the lifestyle, which becomes more and more apparent as you follow it. And they still, I think they still love performing and playing music and stuff. But
there's a section where Nigel's playing a piano piece, and it's really like beautiful and haunting.
I'm really influenced by Mozart and Bach, and it's sort of in between though. It's like a Mach piece, really.
What do you call this?
Well, this piece is called Lick My Love Pump.
Apparently that was the line Rob Reiner said he pissed himself the most at.
Really?
Yeah. So I went back and looked at that, and they do cut it. As soon as he says it, they cut it. Because they just started pissing themselves.
That's another thing, editing is brilliant. Yeah, there's so many aspects of this work so well. And of course it's because it's mockumentary style, I suppose that gives them a bit of freedom, as they can they don't have to worry so much about placement and things, as long as you get the idea of what's going on and everybody's doing what they're doing. It's more performance driven in that respect. Yeah,
did you see the demo that they made? Because instead of writing a script for this, they got $10,000 and they said, oh, well, let's just shoot a 20-minute short of what the film's going to be like. For instance, when they go through the airport checkout. In the demo, he had like loads of nuts and bolts down his trousers. The final film, he had like a cucumber.
Oh, well, the cucumber's much funnier.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So there's things which are the same, but they changed it and tweaked
okay.
it. But, I think that's a good use of the money if you're doing something that's a bit more improvised. So I think that was quite a smart thing for them to do.
This part of it's called Lick My Love Pump.
In terms of like the timeline of when this came out, because obviously they had to produce an album basically and do all these things that must have taken ages to get the final result. But had you heard of Bad News?
I have seen Bad News.
You have seen Bad News, okay. That's the accidental copycat film, basically, of the Comic Strip Presents, which is an anthology comedy series in the UK. And it's basically exactly the same film, but they both, parties insist that there was absolutely no crossover. Neither one had any idea that they were doing it, but it happened to do it at roughly the same time.
Pretty much exactly at the same time. I think that kind of speaks to what musicians were doing at that point, just being stupid, and it was just rife for being mocked.
I could play Stairway to Heaven when I was 12. Jimmy Page didn't actually write it until he was 22.
They clearly are fans of the music, otherwise they wouldn't be able to play these songs.
Like that famous comedian who's Les Dawson, I think. He has a famous thing where he used to play the piano, but he'd deliberately play it badly. It's actually really hard to deliberately play a piano badly and do it well. And it's kind of like that. In order to create the best kind of perception of a band who's sort of critically going downhill.
Yeah.
In order to do it well, they actually need to know what they're doing.
In order to satirise it, you need to know the genre inside and out. They say that it wasn't really based on any particular band. Harry Shearer did go on tour with Saxon, I do believe.
Okay, there we go then.
So I think Saxon's a bit more of a less well-known Iron Maiden.
Oh, okay.
Would you say?
I don't know anything about
okay.
Saxon, but I can picture what they're like in my mind.
If I'd announced that Saxon were playing, I doubt if anyone would have shown up. So what I've had to do is leak out the fact that The Cure are playing.
Where's the fucking door then?
There was a documentary out on Saxon about them going on tour. It was exactly like Spinal Tap. And there was a bit when they were trying to do a Guinness World Record for the most people doing air guitar. So they went to Sheffield Wednesday Stadium and got everyone to do air guitar, and they just got booed off. And it's the funniest thing.
That was the worst 3 minutes I've ever fucking spent in my life.
Some Kind of Monster as well, if you've ever seen the Metallica documentary.
I have
No, so again, that is just like Spinal Tap. There's just childish bickering.
And what are you trying to do? I'm not trying to do fucking shit. You're just sitting here being a complete dick. You're really helping matters.
And speaking of Metallica as well, there's a section where Spinal Tap can't print the cover of their album because it's offensive.
Yes, which is a classic moment, which is another thing that ties back to that manager thing you were saying earlier about how he had to spin it to make it good. Yeah.
So he says, oh yeah, instead we're going to just print it black.
What do you think?
Is this the test pressing?
No, this is it. Yes, that's right.
Smell the Glove by
That's-
Spinal Tap.
yes.
Is it going to say anything in here? It doesn't even say
No,
anything.
it's not going to say anything.
So it's just going to be like this, all
It's going to be
black.
that simple, beautiful, classic.
While I was watching that, I was just thinking, this is exactly what Metallica did in the 90s. They created the Black Album.
There was no real theme to this one. It was simple black cover and you had to listen to the music. You wouldn't be distracted by a drawing on the front.
And that was like 10 years after the fact, you know.
Okay, so Metallica, maybe that was a reference? I don't know.
It was just so spot on what Spinal Tap were doing that it just echoed into the music industry. And it was just, the Beatles have done the White Album, so we're a metal band, we do the Black Album. It was that kind of like arrogance.
Okay.
How much more black could this be? And the answer is none. None
Is that good?
more black.
And also Spinal Tap is probably something that would have been made sooner or later. But I'm just really glad that we got this version of it with the kind of right people behind it who knew exactly what they were doing.
Yeah, and that makes me confident for the sequel that is actually going to be good, because I think whatever they do is going to be funny because they're just going to try and make each other laugh.
Yeah.
And that's just a real joy to see. They have like reunited every now and again. Like I say, they did this Live Earth concert, and every now and again they appear on like a TV chat show, and they're still funny. They're still doing their shtick.
I collect those small horses, those little ponies. I'm trying to get jockeys that are small enough to race them, but you can't find people that are 2.5 feet tall.
The first time I saw it, one that really made me laugh was when they're trying to find the stage and this guy directs them to the stage. And then they're going, right, yeah, come on, yeah, let's go. And then they just basically walked in a circle. And they come back and they see the same guy. Just the looks on their faces in that moment.
I read that guy was not in on it. He was actually just working there.
Really?
And that's why he just never really like bats an eyelid when they come around again, because that kind of thing just happens all the time.
No, this way. Straight rock and roll. Here we go. Hello, Cleveland. Hello, Cleveland. Let's go in.
You must have made a long time.
Another gag I really like is them talking about the history of their drummers.
So all their drummers die in mysterious circumstances.
Yes, the first one who died in a mysterious gardening accident.
The authorities said, best leave it. It's not unsolved, really.
It's best not investigate it.
Yeah, spontaneous combusting drummers as well is really funny. And it's the little things they add to it, saying like all that was left was a little green dot. Like all of that is just brilliant. They could just left it as they spontaneously combusted, but they riff on it and develop it every time. It's really funny.
Well, they can't prove whose vomit it was. They don't have facilities in Scotland Yard to print
you can't
spectrum
really
photographing.
dust for vomit.
I think Christopher Guest is really the heart of all the humour in this. He just comes out with some mad shit, and that's what makes the film. He's the one that came up with the it goes to 11 thing. All that stuff with the guitars, and he's like, don't look at that one's new.
Don't even point at it.
Don't yeah. You can go out and get a bite to eat and come back and you can still hear it. Or
Yeah.
just
or even started like hear it. Can you hear it? No, well it's because I haven't.
The sustain, listen to it.
I'm not hearing anything.
You would, though, if it were playing.
Just everything. He's brilliant in it. It's like he's so in character throughout. He is like the beating heart of the film. But it's still, I wouldn't take away any other character for anything, I think.
Yeah, one of my favourite gags is during the credits when they're saying like, oh, what would you do if you weren't in music? What would you do if you weren't a rock star? Nigel's saying, oh, I could work in a shop.
What size do you wear, sir? And then you answer me.
7 1/4.
I think we have that. Something like that. I think I could do, yeah.
You think you'd be happy doing something?
No, we're all out. Do you wear black? See, that sort of thing, I think I could probably muster up.
Yeah. Do you think you'd be happy doing that?
Well, I don't know. What are the hours?
like he's legitimately kind of like engaging with it, like he's actually going to work in a shop. It's not just imagining. I do like how there's a little bit of an arc with the characters. Like you say, they break up. There's a really nice moment at the end when they're on stage playing without him, and the guy's just like, "Come on, come on, play."
Yeah,
that's really it's quite a nice, heartwarming moment for such a silly film.
It's exactly what you want as well. The feeling of the film just kind of comes on a bit of a downer almost.
Yeah.
You're just like, oh, I'm almost sad now. They were brilliant when they were together, which makes the end, all that more joyous, I guess. And they're like, we're going to do a tour in Japan or whatever it is. And then one of their drummers explodes.
And they get a new drummer immediately.
Yeah. It's a film that's incredibly creative. It's just a well-constructed Hollywood film in a way. It's just done with heart. That's the thing. That's the genius behind it. It's got a human element to it.
I enjoy this film more and more the more I watch it. I think the first time I didn't really get it so much because I was a kid when I watched it the first time. It's very clever actually. It's a very clever film, very witty. So there's a lot in there to take away from it on repeat viewings, I think.
Yeah, again, it's like you need intelligent people to do stupid people really well.
Such a fine line between stupid and clever.
So Sam, what were your final thoughts on Spinal Tap? Do you have anything else to say?
It's up there as probably as one of the greatest comedy movies ever made. It's always often listed off with things like Life of Brian and Airplane and things like that. And I think it lives up to that. If people have absolutely no knowledge of the music industry at all, and they might feel a bit, it might be a bit difficult to get into, possibly, if you don't get some of the references. All in all, I think there's enough in there to make it enjoyable for almost anyone.
Yeah, and the songs are good as well. I unironically think Stonehenge is a good song.
Stonehenge, where a man's a man and the children dance to the pipes of Pan. My love, won't you take my hand? We'll go back in time to that mystic land where the dewdrops cry and the cats meow. I will take you there, I will show you how.
Alright, that's it for this time on Films and That. If you like this episode, please consider supporting Films and That on Patreon, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you, goodbye.